Pump the brakes on Bryce Underwood. That is what one Michigan analyst is saying, and I bet you can probably guess who it is. He's right there. It's Sam Webb. Sam Webb said that stuff. He was on Bud Elliott's summer school from the Cover 3 podcast, and we'll talk about his comments in just a second, most of which, well, all of which were positive. I mean, let's be real, it's Sam Webb. He's not going to say something negative about Bryce Underwood. But we'll talk about it in just a second. First off, this is the Big Ten Team Rivalry Show. If you don't mind supporting the channel, it would mean a lot to us if you would like, possibly even subscribe, maybe even share the video with a friend. And if you're feeling really crazy, telling them to like, subscribe, and share that with a friend. Something like 85% of our viewers are not yet subscribed, and hopefully today is the day that we earn that valuable subscription. I don't care. Subscribe if you want to. It'd be great. It really would, but whatever. Do whatever you want to do. In any case, Sam Webb was on Bud Elliott's summer school, and he had some comments about Bryce Underwood and whether or not Michigan fans need to pump the brakes on him. We will, let's see what he has to say.
How many games before he starts do you think?
So I really think he starts day one.
Okay.
It's really, I think you got to be careful. And this is the thing that if you are a Michigan fan, you got to be concerned with Bryce Underwood. Things were so bad offensively from the quarterback. This is not to denigrate or disparage the individual guys last year, but things were so bad from a performance perspective last year. And Bryce is so immensely talented. It's like everything he does is going to look fantastic, right? It's like, oh my God, he's going to look like Cam Newton, with everything he does. And so there's this rush, I think, to anoint him. And I think that not from a coaching perspective, but it can make you feel like he is ahead of a lot of other freshmen would be. And while he is from a physical perspective, you've covered this long enough, there are certain steps that every freshman has to take.
Okay. That's a heck of a placement for an ad. In any case, you get the point of what Sam Webb there is saying. Basically that Bryce Underwood is still a true freshman. At the end of the day, he is still a true freshman. But up until this point, we have been told that Bryce Underwood is basically way ahead of schedule. I found a couple of articles that talk about it. The Bryce Underwood era begins. Michigan's freshmen will need to rescue the offense from Cameron Ross at the Saturday Blitz. This is July 2025. He had one particular interesting thing of note in here that the Wolverines will unveil a new look offense this year, spearheaded by offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey. Lindsey and Underwood are expected to revamp the offense, aiming to diversify their play calling and spread the ball more effectively across the field. Now, that's all well and good, but you kind of understand Sam Webb's point at this point. Like he's saying that there's a lot of pressure being put on Bryce Underwood, and whether or not Underwood deserves this type of praise and all that, or deserves the pressure maybe, he's still getting it, and he is still a true freshman. And so what Sam Webb is saying is actually kind of proving true here. Like, are we putting way too much pressure on Bryce Underwood by saying he's going to come in and literally rescue Michigan's offense? I mean, he's like 17 years old, so we just need to calm down a little bit. But then you see articles like this: Bryce Underwood's unstoppable rise and the high-stakes LSU versus Michigan war for his future. This was November 14th, 2024 by Dennis Dodd at CBS Sports. And it's got a lot of really good stuff in here. He says, Bryce Underwood is ahead of schedule. No, you don't understand. The number one recruit in the class of 2025 is way ahead of schedule. At age 8, he already stood close to 5'3". By age 10, he was playing with 17-year-olds. The now 6'4", 235-pound quarterback, whoo boy, ranks as the number one recruit in the class of 2025, is drawing comparisons to Vince Young. He was playing varsity high school football games just weeks after his 15th birthday. He threw over 3,000 yards and 39 touchdowns that season, winning Max Prep's National Freshman of the Year honors in 2021. He committed to LSU at age 16, turning 17 just days before his current season at Belleville High School. Whoever gets him and that's still a discussion at this point, will get a prodigy, fresh, smart, and ready. Okay. That's a lot of praise. That is a lot of praise on Bryce Underwood. And I think Sam Webb might have a point. Okay, so I'll just kind of go into a little bit more of Bryce Underwood's career and all that, and then I'll take a couple of comments that I saw come in about Bryce Underwood. So actually, let's look at the comments first because they're pretty interesting. Considering all of the praise that Bryce Underwood is getting from the media, we're seeing a lot of the same thing with fans. So Tom Rockhill 8634 says, I don't think the game in November is going to be particularly close. How much time I got? I'm only at 6 minutes in. That's kind of nuts to say. Well, okay. I shouldn't say that's nuts to say because it would be awesome. But Michigan has them in every position group. Maybe secondary is close and O-line is close. I think Ohio State's probably got the better wide receivers, but anyway, I think looking at the rosters, most GMs would agree. Throw in the big house and pressure on Day and Wink calling a big game, and it's a blowout. I'm going to give this comment a heart because that's what we do when we disparage Ohio State. But, I mean, does Michigan have Ohio State at every position group? I don't know if that's true. And I'm going to come back to that in just a second because I did look some stuff up that I thought was really interesting, but we'll transition to that in just a second. But it was this comment down here. This comment was in reference to this comment. So here we go. We've got Jim Bob Smith 2496 say, QB is a toss-up between Underwood and Julian Saying, but you don't have anything beyond that, and we have Mikey Keene that has 39 games under his belt, a career 67.8% completion rate, and the only known commodity on either team. But I agree it is a toss-up with a lean towards Michigan. Running back, he's going through all of the position groups. Yeah, so like he's saying, it's a toss-up between Bryce Underwood and Julian Saying, and I would say that that's probably true if you're just comparing those two quarterbacks. There are more experienced quarterbacks that Michigan's going to be going up against in the Big Ten, but I think the defense for Michigan is going to be ready for most of them. That being said, Eric P7413 says, I wouldn't even come close to saying quarterback is close. Underwood has started since he was 13 years old and has done nothing but win, and reports are all about how polished, athletic, and how game-ready he is. Most game-ready freshman in decades. You can't argue with that. The reports about Bryce Underwood really are glowing. While reports coming from people watching over 90% of OSU practices say Julian Saying is looking like a guy who you would expect to be on a team for 3 years and never made the leap to starter. Oh boy. Saying is honestly bad. It's crazy and I don't see anything at all. Not even a single post that says Saying is that guy to take them ... past the rough teams. It's going to be a bad year. I just hope all OSU fans are ready and stock up on tissues, because we know how soft OSU and his fans are. Yeah, I'll just give that one a like. But so I'd pump the brakes there. I would. I mean, you can't argue with him and say that, Bryce Underwood isn't getting glowing remarks from the media. He clearly is. Dennis Dodd himself even said that Bryce Underwood was way ahead of schedule. And Dennis Dodd doesn't exactly have a dog in this fight. So, I mean, is he going to lie about that? No, probably not. I love how Key and Peele is low-key showing up on my Watch Next feed. That's kind of funny. No, Dennis Dodd's probably not going to lie about that or embellish that. We did hear that some reports out of Ohio State practices saying that Julian Saying and Lincoln Kienholz have practices where they look incredible, and then other practices where they look dreadful. So there might be something to this as well, although, again, I would pump the brakes there too. But in any case, it is what it is. This comment, though, I thought was interesting. This was on our Michigan State will upset Michigan in 2025 per Sports Illustrated. Yes, I like my own videos. Actually, Cliff put that one out. At Shim6057 says, how in the wood... That MSU degree coming in hot. How in the wood does Underwood have a huge advantage over Childs? Aiden Childs. Underwood's true freshman season will unfold much like Childs' first season last year. He will show some promise, but struggle a lot. Also, there is no way Michigan is better than MSU at tight end or wide receiver. All right. Look, Michigan State's not going to have that great of a year this year. I mean, Jonathan Smith is a good coach. He's doing some stuff in recruiting that are positive for Michigan State, but they're not there yet. They need some time. And Jonathan Smith needs to figure out a really good strategy for building up Michigan State, despite the fact that they probably can't compete with Michigan for in-state recruits. They probably will still win some, but I don't know that they should necessarily rely on that. I think probably what they need to do is kind of take the Mark D'Antonio route and take recruits that are maybe, technically not good enough to get into Michigan and then develop them to beat Michigan. I don't know why I'm giving Michigan State advice on how to beat Michigan, but it's Friday night and things are getting weird apparently. So I would also pump the brakes and say that he will struggle a lot, that Bryce Underwood will struggle a lot. I think that Bryce Underwood is probably a little bit more polished than Aiden Childs is right now, or at least was in Aiden Childs' first year. I do expect Aiden Childs to take a nice leap forward this season. I mean, it is his sophomore season. You do tend to see that the biggest leap in talent, or at least in performance, from the freshman to the sophomore season. So I expect Childs to be better. But that's going to make the competition between Underwood and Childs really interesting. It really depends on how polished Underwood really is. And if you believe all of the reports, and I haven't heard one single report out of Michigan camp or from anyone who has watched Bryce Underwood play at any point in Underwood's career say that he is not good or not up to billing. Sam Webb is really the first person that I've ever actually heard say, like, hey, maybe we need to take some pressure off this kid, because if he's got all this pressure on him, he could freak out. And you can't ask too much of Bryce Underwood. I mean, you can't ask him to come in and be Michigan's savior at 17 years old. That is a lot of pressure. That is a lot of pressure. I mean, freaking Jim Harbaugh was brought in to be Michigan's savior and almost got fired. So you can imagine how much more pressure there would be on a 17-year-old, and would he be able to handle it? I don't know. If he doesn't end up being the quarterback that we all hope he could be, I really fear for his social media presence, because I think he's going to get kind of trashed. That being said, I don't think he's going to be worse than Childs was in Childs' freshman year. Plus, Michigan's got a lot of talent around him to help build him up. Plus, Chip Lindsey is a really good veteran coordinator who should be able to handle Bryce Underwood fairly well, or at least help develop him and move him in a nice, slow, sustainable way. So that being said, we've looked at some of these comments here. I wanted to look at some of Bryce Underwood's career highlights. And just in case you were wondering if the reports from the media and all that are warranted, it looks like it. Yeah, I mean, he started all 4 years at Belleville High School, which is rare for a quarterback. He has a 50-4 record as a starter. This is according to Microsoft Copilot. He is a 2-time state champion, 2-time Michigan Player of the Year, 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year. He has nearly 13,000 all-purpose yards and 179 touchdowns, and played in multiple state title games and regional finals in front of massive crowds. So if you're wondering how he's going to handle the big house, maybe that will give you kind of an indication. But the big house, I mean, it's college. It's by nature a bigger stage than high school. He is known for his elite poise and competitiveness even as a teenager. Coaches and analysts compare him to Cam Newton, Vince Young, and Patrick Mahomes. He is physically imposing at 6'4", 225, with a cannon arm and mobility. He played in varsity football games just weeks after turning 15. That is insane. That is absolutely insane. Analysts, Dennis Dodd, everybody basically at this point is saying that he is ahead of schedule developmentally, but like any freshman, he may face growing pains. How big are those growing, or how bad are those growing pains going to be? That's really the question. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Bryce Underwood. And maybe as Michigan fans, we really do need to pump the brakes a little bit, just to be like, okay, this is a 17-year-old kid. We're putting a lot of pressure on him to have a good season. I think Michigan's still going to be a CFP contender. I think from everything that I've seen out of Michigan camp and Ohio State camp, I fully expect Michigan to beat Ohio State this year. I think Michigan's just got the far better defense. And we'll see what happens with Julian Saying. I mean, no hate on the kid. You got to be good to even be considered to play quarterback at Ohio State. But it just doesn't seem like Ryan Day really has what he needs right now to beat Michigan. And maybe that just comes down to the mental game. I mean, Michigan really does seem to be in his head. In any case, this got me thinking, along with this comment, how do Michigan's position groups stack up against Ohio State? And we'll go through this super quickly. Quarterbacks, slight lean to Michigan for upside, but both teams are in transition. Offensive line, Michigan is ranked number 22 nationally, returning 3 starters, but struggled last season. Ohio State ranked number 2 nationally, rebuilt with depth and experience, including transfers and rising stars. That is from the Ohio podcast. I just want to make sure that this is from 2025. Yeah, okay, so that's from 2025. So it does say that Ohio State has the better offensive line by a decent margin. That's interesting. Running backs, Michigan for production and pedigree. Wide receivers, Ohio State decisively. Michigan is currently ranked number 53 nationally with limited returning production for wide receivers. Ohio State is number 1 in the country. They've got Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Inniss, Carnell Tate. I mean, it really isn't a conversation right now. Ohio State has the better wide receivers. I'm sorry. Defensive line, Michigan, 5th nationally with depth and high-end transfers. Also, they've got an incredible 2026 class coming in. Ohio State ranked 9th with potential but questions. So the edge goes to Michigan for proven depth and talent. Linebackers, Michigan, but narrowly. We're returning some top tacklers. You got Jayshon Barham, whose development really took off towards the latter half of last season. Ohio State, on the other hand, tied for 3rd nationally. They've got Sonny Styles and a very fast, aggressive unit. They do look good. It'll be interesting to see how they look under their new defensive coordinator. I just said his name a million times in yesterday's video. Why can't I remember his name? Oh my gosh. He was the coach for, it'll come back to me. That's so stupid. Defensive backs, Michigan, number 9th nationally with returning starters and SEC transfers. Ohio State ranked 8th, featuring Caleb Downs and rising stars. The defensive backs are a toss-up. Both secondaries are very, very good. And then for special teams, it's Michigan, and it's not close. The overall vibe. Now, this is kind of interesting because this is from AI, but it's taking it from a bunch of different resources, right? Michigan has won 4 straight against Ohio State and enters 2025 with momentum, physicality, and a chip on its shoulder. Ohio State, meanwhile, is loaded with skill and talent, could be more explosive if the quarterback situation stabilizes. The edge goes to Michigan. That's interesting. That is very interesting. I mean, considering Ohio State is coming off of a national championship, how can they reload on the offense? It is absolutely zero question that they've got talent on offense, but how can the new coaches help them? Where are they going to be with the new coaches? Where's Michigan going to be with the new coaches and Bryce Underwood? It's a really interesting question, but we're going to leave it right there. Do you think Bryce Underwood is ready? And do you expect his freshman season to be a bit of a struggle, featuring some growing pains? Or is he going to be what Michigan needs right now? And honestly, what does that look like? Does that look like a Big Ten championship? Does that look like 9-3? What do you think? Let us know in the comments. If you haven't liked or subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. It would mean a lot to us. Don't forget to join us Wednesday nights at 8:30 where we live stream. We talk some football and all that, and we will catch you in the next video.